Right on. Okay, so let's go over some stocks. I'm probably just going to do like the Big Ten kind of thing, but we'll see how far we get. There's a lot, so I'm not going to go through them all, but we'll definitely look at the big guys. So starting off with Apple here, you can see that it's having issues with the 196 level, so just shy of 200 bucks. You can see it's rejected this area a few times now as of today. The markets are now closed, but today it also rejected at 196 bucks. So this tells me that, I mean, it's obviously very bullish, even though it's extremely overpriced. But, you know, looking at the other moving averages, yeah, it's still very, very bullish. But clearly it is having an issue going higher than 196. So I would wait for it to at least break or fill this zone, maybe hit 197, 198, and have a more full candle, because the whole level of 196 bucks is it's holding it too well for me to would want to buy it. So I would look at maybe finding an area below here, kind of like here. Can include all these 4-hour candles. So this is your support zone. So if price comes down into this area, you're looking for a buy as long as it rejects this area and stays above these moving averages. This is the 4-hour moving average, so it's still way above it, so that's totally fine. But it needs a little bit more momentum in order to push through this 196 level. It doesn't want to break it. So if you look at it on the weekly, last week was a very weak candle, but this week was much better, so it's interesting. I don't see it really breaking lower yet. I think even though it's extremely overpriced, if you want to look at some financials, I mean, $3 trillion company, that's absolutely insane, but it's the PE ratio. So at 32, even for the tech stocks, it's still overpriced. But I mean, it doesn't mean people won't keep buying it. So I know that it might obviously continue up still, but I would wait before purchasing more Apple stock. I would wait, either let it come into this zone more and close more, like at least close above this 196 level, or come into this area at 193 and below and see if it rejects this area. Either way, that would be a good buying opportunity, but until then, I would not touch it. So that's Apple. Moving on to Airbnb, you can see that obviously very bullish, just like the other ones. All these stocks seem to be very bullish with no pullbacks, which is scary to me, but I know other people do like that. They like when things only go up, but that doesn't last forever. So yeah, looking at Airbnb here, I guess like what I would wait for is a pullback of some kind. I mean, there's areas of resistance up here on the weekly, so that's quite a bit up still. It's roughly $17 up still, so there's tons of room for it to keep going up, but I would wait for a little pullback area. Maybe this looks like right here it actually functioned as support pretty well, so wait for it to come down to 147 and then buy, take a long position and target this 170 zone. I think that's a healthy trade. I think you can still ride out the bullish momentum. I don't think there's anything stopping it until then. I mean, this week was very bullish, last week was very bullish. There's no real areas of resistance until you get up into this 170 area. So looking at this, I would say it's still a clean buy up to the 172 level, so you can still get another 20 bucks out of it. You can buy it now or wait till 147, like this little area here. If it came down to here, buy more and then ride out that long position. So Airbnb is done. Adobe, we're just gonna do these in alphabetical order. So Adobe here, I've not looked at these in a long time, but I clearly did mark out this zone a long time ago, and you can see that it is rejecting in this area. This week candle filled more into this zone, but it still has not broken this zone. So that is something to be mindful of. price likes to gravitate towards whole numbers. So, 529 is kind of the whole number we're working with here. It's having a tough time breaking that 529 area, but your resistance or support, I guess, in this situation is right here, which seems to be maintaining it. So it's staying above 514, but it can't seem to break 529, so it's a little bit stagnant. Going back to the weekly, I mean, this candle is pretty bullish still, so that's good. I think there is still some bull momentum in this. I mean, if you look at the financials though, terrible. I mean, 49 PE ratio is ridiculous, very overpriced. So I mean, that always scares me. Buying overpriced things scares me. I know it can still continue to go up, and it probably will, but just the disciplined trader in me, I don't want to buy anything that's overpriced, and I don't want to sell anything that's undervalued. So that's just kind of how I operate. But based on this, I would say you could still buy it. I mean, today, Friday, closed with a bullish engulfing. It seems to be respecting the support area, so I would say it's still a clean buy. You could shoot for the next weekly target, which would be somewhere around here. It's kind of the next area of resistance, so all the way up to about 570. So from 529 to 570 here would be a decent buy. If you bought it now, it'd be good. If you bought it when it comes down, if it came down to 514, it'd be a good buy. Obviously, you would still want it to respect this area. If it broke this area, then that would kind of invalidate the trade. But if it respects this area, then it's a clean buy. So it's Adobe, the good old AMC. So I have not looked at this in a long time. Let's see. So, price is below this moving average. So that tells me that it's bearish. I mean, it is a pretty much bankrupt company. Let's see. Just want to look at their financials quick here. Yeah, so not profitable. Very, very not profitable. Losing money. Yeah, I don't even want to dig deep into that. But so looking at these technicals, there's this massive gap, and now it's filled the gap pretty much back downwards. Looking for personally, I would never buy this stock. It's a dying company, but I understand that the guys on Reddit like it. I understand that there's, you can swing trade this pretty good up and down and make good money, because there's a lot of, when the momentum comes in, it really carries the price, but not my type of trading, but I'll still analyze it. So this looks to be an area of resistance or support, I guess, if you're looking to buy it, between about 433 and 423. Looks to be a good area to buy. If we put this on a bigger time frame here, you can see that it's actually been kind of respecting this whole bottom. So we'll delete this for now. This is obviously very bearish, so I would not buy it, but I understand why some people are. I would look to sell it as it comes higher. If it starts moving higher, like obviously this area was perfect, around the $6 area, which price did gap to and then sold off immediately, I would just keep looking for short positions. So basically anytime price goes above this moving average, I would look to short it. I think your next short position would be somewhere here. I mean, there's not a ton of data here to really determine that, but I think as long as you are shorting this stock for the long term, I think you'll be better off than buying it and trying to catch quick little upward moves. But I would look for, anytime price crosses this moving average or gets close to it, I would short it. So it's clearly making its way down. It'll probably come back to this zone, maybe test this $4 range again, and then perfect, maybe test this $4 range and then bounce back up. So it'll probably do something like this, and then look for a short position maybe something like this, you know, shooting for about 525, 530, and then look to short it down, because I do believe this is eventually going to go to zero. It might take a long time, might sit stagnant for a long time, might sit around $3 forever, but I do think that it is going to zero eventually. I just don't see them coming back, even with all the Reddit forum stuff. It's just unlikely. So that's AMC. AMD here. So does not like this 120 area. So bullish, still very bullish, but having issues with the 120 area. So breaking it down a little bit more here. You might get a good buy. It comes down to this 110 area. Remember, price loves whole numbers, so $110 it is respecting, so I would look for a buy if it came down to here, and honestly just target 120. So I wouldn't target any higher because it is rejecting this area so much. You can see it's making lower highs. Before price made it deep into this zone. Now it won't even make it into this zone. I can actually probably delete this. So, you know, 120 is high now, whereas before it was low. So I would look for a trade like this. I would wait for it to come to this supply zone, this $110, and then target this 120. You can see on the daily, it's really having a tough time breaking above this 120. So my trade would look something like this for AMD. For a buy, I mean, it's still very bullish. It's way above this moving average, the daily moving average, and the 4-hour moving average. So I do believe it's still a good buy, but I think these are your parameters: $110 to $120. Set your stop. If you're going to use a stop, use it, set it below this area, you know, below 108 kind of thing, and then that would be your trade. If you want to go over the fundamentals here, I guess earnings are coming up soon, but you know, this PE ratio is absolutely disgusting. Like 460 is insane. It's about 20 times overpriced, so not good, but still bullish. People will still buy it. So if price comes down to this area, this 110 area, and starts rejecting, then I think you're good for a buy. And then if it doesn't seem like it has enough momentum to push up to 120, you can always get out early, get out 114, 115. It is what it is. If you wanted to enter that buy position, you kind of got to do what you got to do. So that's AMD. Amazon, the giant Amazon. So looking at this, go over to a weekly. So it is at a bit of a resistance area, or it was. It's come down now, and now you have this area that it seems to be in. Seems to be holding above, but you know, looking at this weekly, it's kind of it's printing, it's wicking pretty hard below 130. So I would almost put it like this, 128 maybe. Yeah, so if you look at it on a weekly perspective, anytime it's came down back into the 128 price, it's held above. So even though it's having issues moving higher, it's having more issues moving lower. So that tells me it's still a good buy. It's way above the moving average. I don't even want to look at the financials. I'm sure it's very overpriced, but could still continue up. So with that being said, I would target this upper area here. And again, because it's respecting anything below this 128 level, if you could do something like this, you know, keep price below this area here, get in on the 128, target, you know, 135, or the next zone up here at 143, 144, something like that would be an excellent trade. I think the buying momentum is still there. I think for Amazon stock, it did struggle to go higher, but like I said, on the weekly, it's having a much tougher time breaking lower than 128. So I would ride the bullish momentum out because it's still in here. You can see this is very bullish. You have no reason to believe it's not bullish still. So I would continue with the long positions and buy this, and I would target 144 area. And if things get bad in between, then take your profits at 135 if it hits this area. And you see the momentum dying, just take your profits here, and if not, hold it for the 144. So that is Amazon. We'll look at these NASDAQ stocks. So Microsoft, I think it's the second biggest company right now. So I have not looked at these in a long time, so we'll clear all these up here. So looking at Microsoft, you can see this price action is kind of ugly, but you can see that there is a bottom that it's been respecting right here. So anything below 331, it's been respecting. It obviously made massive new highs and it's pulled back since, but if we can get a better look on the weekly, oh yeah, see, like sometimes if price action is really bad on one time frame, like it is on this daily here, sometimes you just you just switch time frames and then you can see a lot better. So this is huge actually. So above 345, can even put this like this, 346 just to make it easy. Anything above 346 on the weekly has been rejected, and it is rejecting, you know, on the weekly below 330. So between 330 and 346 is kind of where it wants to be. So I think this is when you have to just make a decision. You know, you can always stay flat. Like that's the thing. You don't have to take a trade. You never have to take a trade. And sometimes that is the better option. So because this is rejecting so many times, and you can see back in November 2021 it was the same thing, it hasn't broken above this 346 level and held on the weekly. So granted, this last week, you know, as of today, this candle did touch down into this 331 zone and pull back, so that tells me that there are buyers still. But again, it's never broken above 346. And if you look at the finances, you know, 34 price, you know, P ratio is very high still. So again, like this is super overpriced, just like all the other tech stocks. But you know, it doesn't mean it can't still go up, obviously, but it hasn't. So because it's rejecting this 346 and it's done it so many times, I would be hesitant to buy this right now. And if I was to buy it, it would be at this area. As long as price rejected this area, you might be good to buy it and then target 346. But as far as targeting higher than 346, I wouldn't, because if you go back to this weekly, you can see it's super rejected this. So it doesn't like going above 346. So because of that, I would not target higher. But you could target something like this, get a 3R, you know, 3 risk to reward kind of thing. Get in for a, you know, a quickish trade. But other than that, I don't see much, because it's too risky to try to target above 346 when history is not on your side. Financials are not on your side. It's very overpriced, and it's never held above 346. So that tells me that, you know, you should maybe be hesitant to buying that and trying to shoot above 346. So that's Microsoft. Nvidia, so another overpriced company, of course, all these tech ones are. But looking at this, I mean, crazy bullish. You know, it hasn't had a bad month this year. Every single month has been highly bullish. So I would still look to buy this, but you don't have any history. I mean, prices, it's at all-time highs. It's never been this high before, so that becomes risky because you don't know where it's going to gravitate towards. but neither does anybody else, so they might just keep buying it because obviously it's very bullish. It just keeps going up. Look, it had this massive gap on earnings and it's continued to go up, so you could continue to buy this. I'll try to find a zone that would be the best to buy it at. I mean, this would be your best bet, but who knows if price would ever come down here. I mean, if it did, this would be a great trade here. You get like a 5R here. Shoot for 480. Buy it at like 443. If price came down here, but you can see that it is making it's making lower highs. So this was the previous high, came down, now it's making a lower high. You can see a bunch of wicks forming here, so that tells me it wants to head lower first. So I wouldn't be looking to buy it yet, but I would wait for it to come down to this zone and then buy it. And then, I mean, let's just look at the financials. I know they're horrible. Yeah, 238. Somehow this is over $1 trillion company with only $26 billion in revenue. That is horrible. That is so bad. But oh well. Kind of, I guess that is what it is. You got to make money. You don't have to be okay with the evaluation. You just have to make money, I guess. So I would wait for price to come down to 443 and then enter a long position back up to 480 and see if it can't push higher. So that's Nvidia. So Google now. Oh, I don't know, I drew this up a long time ago, but clearly it did hit its price that I marked out. Yeah, so this is pretty crazy. Very bullish, massive bullish week. This is actually good to see because you can see price was rejecting this area for a long time, and now this week completely annihilated it. So I would say Google is very bullish and is a good buy. All the way up to this area here, somewhere around the 140 level. So I think it's a good buy now. I would wait for an even better position, something ideally like this would be perfect. Yeah, so wait for price to pull back to like 129, 130. Yeah, I like 129 better. And then target up here to like 140, 141 maybe. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So this would be your trade for this. I wouldn't buy it yet. I mean, you could, but odds are it'll pull back a bit. So you could buy some on Monday and then wait for it to come down to, or if it does come down to 128, then you could buy more and then dollar average in kind of a bit better. If not, just wait till then. Take your full position at 129 and target 141. I think that's an excellent trade. I think Google's still doing well. I actually think it's one of the companies that's still overpriced, but I don't think it's as bad. Yeah, 27's quite a bit better. PE ratio, and then the 1.167 trillion here. But at least the revenue is 280 billion, so I mean it's only roughly 6 times higher than the market cap is roughly 6 times higher than the revenue. So I mean it's still crazy, but not as bad as the other ones like Nvidia. So Google is a good buy, I believe. Wait till it comes down to 129, hold it till 141. I think you'd be good to go with that. Tesla, everyone's favorite stock. So I drew this out, don't remember what it was, so I'm going to delete all this. So this is interesting. So this was its previous area of resistance, and it was headed up, and it just came shy, and then had a big bearish candle down, bearish engulfing, nice wick here. So not sure if it will head higher than this. The bullish momentum may have came to a halt. Try to see if we have, I mean it's still way above this daily moving average, so you have that. If you're looking for an area of resistance, So far it is right here around the 256 level, but it's not very significant. If we put it on a weekly, yeah, this is tough to say. I mean, if I was to buy Tesla stock, it would be down here. I would want to buy it at like 247. I think any price, I think any price above 247 is high. I could see this coming down here first before going higher, if it does even go higher. And it's just because, price had this huge downward gap here, has yet to fill it. If you look on a weekly, I mean, that bearish engulfing candle is ugly. And then you look on a monthly as well, huge wick here. So, and again, more wicks up here. Anything above 300 bucks is quite high, so it doesn't seem like it really wants to go higher than that. But if I was to take a trade and you think you could get in at a decent price, it'd be around 247, and then maybe target like 275. I don't think you would even target this high. I don't think you would target 300 bucks. It's too much. I mean, unless the momentum was there, but I would look to take profits around 275. But I mean, if it kept going up and you got in at 247, maybe you could close half your position here and then just wait. Maybe it'll keep going up. I would set my stop below this zone, let it, let price come to me, let it get filled at this 247 level, and then hold up my long position. And so that would be my Tesla trade. Let's just look at the financials. 72, I mean, I remember when this was much, much higher. It's still very overpriced, obviously, but it's probably about 3 times too expensive. I know people don't want to hear that, but that is the truth. So, $845 billion market cap with only an $80 billion revenue as of last year. I mean, that's 10 times market cap to revenue, so it is very high. But it is what it is. That's Tesla. I don't think it's a bad buy. I think you could definitely average in as price keeps, if price keeps coming down, keep buying more. Odds are it'll pull up at some point and you'll do okay. I think Tesla long term is good, so I wouldn't be afraid of this buy here at 247. So that is Tesla. This is probably the last one I'll do. Good old Facebook, or Meta, I guess we can call it. This is interesting. So massive bull week, smoked the $300 level. There's a ton of momentum here, but it is headed into the danger zone up here. It's still probably good to go till 340, so you could still get 15 bucks out of this. This weekly candle is so bullish and engulfed last week's that I think you're definitely good to buy. And I would wait for price to come back down here a little bit. So don't buy it immediately, but let it come down a little bit. And then hold it to about 340. I think that's a safe, very safe bet. But then it gets a little iffy after that because, between 340, 350, there's a ton of previous wicks here. So that's kind of where momentum might die off and it might start selling. But so far so good. I think it's still a good buy. I do think Facebook is actually one of the better price stocks. Oh no, it used to be. Okay. Because I remember looking at this and it was like 15, 20 before, and it's pretty much double now. So it's quite a bit higher. 116 billion revenue. It's like 7 times market cap to revenue, so that's high. So this stock is overpriced now, but as of this week's closing, I think there's still a ton of momentum going into it. So I think it's still a safe buy, to be honest. I think it's one of your better bets. I would just try to find a decent price. There is a chance, because this gap here, there's a chance that price will try to fill this gap. So, I think you're good to buy it at any price up until 340. So if you got in at, 317, 310, 303, if price did decide to close close this gap. I think you could get in at any area, you know, within 317 to 303, and I think it would be a good buy up until 340. I think that would be a pretty decent trade. Let's look at maybe a couple more. Oh, that's not my Stokes. What should we look at? Netflix. Okay. Delete all these. Want some fresh charts here. So, oh, this is the 4 hour. Okay. So clearly still bullish, way above this moving average. Is respecting this area below 415 bucks. You know, it functioned as resistance, broke, came down, now it's as support, and it's respecting this as support again. If we want to look at a weekly candle, yeah, this is interesting though. So price on the weekly does not like to go above 446. So you can see this huge wick through the zone, came back, and now, but it doesn't really want to go below 414. So it's trying to figure out what it wants to do. As of last week, you know, bearish engulfing with a huge wick. Now this week kind of printed a doji, so this one's a little iffy. I don't know if it's a great buy anymore. I think if you were to buy it, this might be your only trade here. Definitely do not target above 446 because there's just way too much resistance above it. You can see it just did not like it. I think even 446 would be a little bit risky. I don't think you really want to short this yet. I mean, unless price came up to 446, then it would be a good short, but don't short it now. But there is a good chance that it breaks this zone and goes lower. I think the momentum is dying off. If we look at, you know, some of these other time frames, you know, the 1 hour, you can see that price was way above this 1 hour moving average for a long time, and now it's crossed over, and now it's holding below. So there is a good chance that the bullish momentum has ended for Netflix and it will head lower now. But this would be my only buy trade. If price comes down to 415 and rejects the zone, I would look for a buy. But even more ideally, I would look for a short position, and I would target something like this. Target this zone, and then, you know, even a little bit lower. So ideally this would be a better trade for Netflix, and it will take some time to set up, but it's worth waiting out. I think it would be a very good trade if you took it. I would personally short this. I just don't like the resistance, you know, for me to buy this, understanding that there's this much resistance above, you know, 450, above 446. That'd be crazy to me. So I would bank on it being rejected at 446 and selling off versus